First, what we plan to do with those non-instructional days. Submission for our calendar is due May 1st. Graduation date, all high school seniors must attend a minimum of 175 instructional days. County boards may not hold graduation ceremonies and release seniors earlier than 5 instructional days prior to the end of the regularly scheduled instructional term. We have to have 2 public hearings, which this is our second one. Employee calendar voting will occur February 4th through February 6th. And that sums up the calendar meeting.
Okay, thank you, Christie. Is that all we need? We have the second one, is that all we have to have then?
Yep.
We're required to. Okay, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Lord, we thank you for this opportunity to meet. We ask you that we do things that are good for the staff and students of Pendleton County. We thank you for keeping everyone safe so far this winter and ask you to continue keeping them safe throughout the rest of the year. We ask you to bless this meeting and everything we do tonight. Amen. Amen. No public comment.
Okay. So student recognition, January Academic Student of the Month at the middle high school, Orrin Merrick. He is the January Academic Student of the Month. He is the son of Matthias and Crystal Merrick of Petersburg. Orrin is an active member of theater where he starred in several productions at Pendleton County High School. He is on the A honor roll and has an OSHA 10 certification. He plans to finish his electrical tech course at South Branch Vocational Center next year to pursue an electrical career. The January James Huffman Responsible Student of the Month is Gabriella Trail of Franklin. She is the daughter of Travis and Brittany Bogan, the granddaughter of Keith and Tammy Trail. Gabriella participates in beauty pageants, including Miss Teen West Virginia USA, where she was the recipient of the Sanders Award. She also shoots competitive archery in places like Las Vegas, Chicago, and Lancaster, PA. Gabriella is a member of National Honor Society and Student Council. She plans to attend school for radiology, specializing in mammography. She also wants to become a real estate agent and work alongside her mother.
Thank you. All right, minutes of the January 6th board meeting, we all received those. Is there any corrections, additions, deletions to those minutes? If not, a motion to approve the minutes is written.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, likewise, motion carried. That brings us down to personnel.
Yes, resignations and retirements. We have Kirsten Smith, English Language Arts, 7 through 12 at Pendleton County Middle High School, starting February 6, 2026. And Philip Combs, Assistant Football Coach at Pendleton County Middle High School. And that takes care of the resignations.
You recommend?
And you have my recommendation to
Superintendent.
accept these resignations.
Recommends it. Huh?
You're doing 2 separate votes.
Recommends that we accept the resignations. So I have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, likewise, motion carried. To retirements.
Retirements, we have Connie Hedrick, Head Custodian Cook at Brandywine Elementary School, starting June 30th, 2026. And Ron Hudson, Agriculture Education Teacher at Pendleton County Middle High School, starting June 30th, 2026.
And yet my recommendation that these retirements be accepted with regret.
Superintendent recommends that we accept these retirements with regret, which is very meaningful. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, likewise, motion carried. Employment of personnel.
Josh Owens, Boys Basketball Head Coach at Pendleton County High School. And Thomas Craig as Substitute Teacher.
Yeah, my recommendation to accept these positions for employment as presented.
Superintendent recommends that we hire these 2 people. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Motion carried.
Approval of contracts, we have none. And approval of non-paid coaches, we have Serena Harper, girls basketball coach at Pendleton County Middle School, and Rod Cooper, assist with boys basketball at Pendleton County High School.
Give my recommendation to accept these non-paid coaches as presented.
Superintendent recommends that we accept these non-paid coaches. I have a motion.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? And these need to be commended to do this on their own time as non-paid coaches. I know how hard that is, right, Travis? I have a motion and a second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Motion carried.
Approval of volunteers and chaperones, we have one for Franklin Elementary as a volunteer, Kimberly Brown.
And it's my recommendation that Kimberly Brown be approved as a volunteer.
Recommendation to approve the volunteer. I have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
And we have no leave of absence.
Finishes you up?
Yep.
Thank you, Kristen. And we're down to finance.
All right, under 6A, nothing for budget revisions tonight, but for 6B, we'll try to go through this fairly timely. I had sent some information out. I'm going to start with some information about year end. I'm going to start with W-2 reconciliation calendar year end. The W-2s have been issued for our employees. This is just some statistics for us for W-2s. We had 305 W-2s, which means we had 305 employees. Now, roughly 180, 185 full-time employees. So the rest would be part-time substitutes, whether it's service or temporary part-time persons, or even if a person works just one day, obviously they still get a W-2. So 305 W-2s for the year, calendar year, December 31st, 2025. Gross payroll, $9,747,342.09. And then we tie everything back to FICA and subject to Social Security and subject to federal, so it all reconciles for the IRS and for reporting. So we had various deductions, so that makes our Social Security subject to wages just over almost 9.2 million. And then you get down to what's subject for federal tax purposes. So you subtract retirement, is subtracted out. Any annuities, tax sheltered annuities, and so that gets to what gets into the employees box 1, or reportable wages, is $8,661,396.21. So we try to explain to employees that's not your gross income, that's your taxable income. Their health insurance comes out pre-tax, their retirement comes out, so it does help on taxes to have some of those deductions being pre-tax on that. So, and then how much federal tax? Well, $702,915.19. That comes out to 8.12%. So, most of our persons are on the average tax brackets, certainly, not the higher ones. We have people that are substitutes. They may make several $1,000s a year, but very little federal tax comes out because the brackets don't pick up much of those various little amounts here and there. So it's not a huge amount cumulatively, but it is over 700,000. FICA, just over 703,000 based on that information. And then we have an example of a tax exempt. We have the dental and vision, health insurance, 400,000 is tax exempt, and that brings us down to how much? To 551,000. So how can an employee in the bottom right as an example? Somebody has 50,000 gross pay, health insurance comes out pre-tax, some life insurance up to 50,000, dental and vision, medical reimbursement. That gets them down to 43.7 for Social Security wages, retirement, and an annuity. So you might have 50,000 gross pay, but only 40,200 on the W-2, and that's how that works. That's those deductions that come out. We sometimes have to explain to employees what they say. I thought I made more than that. Well, yes, your gross wages were, but you're only going to be taxed on 40,200 in that particular example. So that's just information for you on that one. The 941 calendar year just has our 4 quarterly 941. Not even going to pull that up tonight. 6B, you don't need to look at it. It just ties the 4. They tie back to the full year. I'm going to pull up now 6B financial status analysis. 6B financial status analysis. So this one's a little bit busy. This was sent out to Metro News a week and a half ago. They were asking the State Department for some information, for some data. It's all factual data. We ended up being discussed, or at least the 1,400 floor counties did. And then later in the week, we end up being discussed by name, which is what it is, and we'll move forward with that and certainly defend what we think we need. Anyhow, this various financial data points shows all 55 counties, and I've highlighted the ones in orange, the below 1,400 counties. So if we just go down to Pendleton, for example, all 55 counties are here, but Pendleton, 843 students. Okay, that was actual second month enrollment. 696.05 is our square miles, okay. And then it gets down to what additional students after adjusted enrollment, so we would get added 547.87. That's after the 1,400 floor calculation, which we're not getting into tonight. So it gets us almost to 1,400, but not quite. That 547.87 students generates $3.946 million. And if you add in retirement and insurance, which is a separate step, it's over $4 million, which certainly we know that. And it's hefty. I think, people now are certainly seeing this a little bit more and puts us into the microscope or limelight more than we're accustomed to being. Pocahontas gets 3.6. Now next year they'll get more than Pendleton because they'll be further below the population than what we are. So if you add up the below 1,200 counties, statewide is $25 million. So $25 million is going to the below 1,400 counties. Now overall, it's over $1 billion that goes into public education. So then we get into what's the fund balance. So if you go to second column from the right, what's the carryover fund balance? And as I have mentioned, most counties are in pretty good shape. Most counties have done a good job. This was for FY24, but not for 25. Pendleton County was 1.759, almost 1.8 million. We finished 25, just over 1.8 million to the good carryover. A lot of other counties have a lot of money too. Now the ones that make headlines are the Roans, the Hancocks. Hancock shows incomplete up above, but they are in a deficit projected to be 6 or 7 million by the end of this year. And we'll talk about but most counties on there have positive numbers. There's a few that stand out. So it's not like, there's not, funding coming through, and it's not like all the counties are mismanaging the money. Now you have a Randolph. Randolph County is certainly closing schools. Even at the end of 24, they had about $5.3 million. That's down to about $2 million at the end of 25, and it could well be into a deficit or near to it at the end of 26 or 27. So they're not even nearly as bad as Hancock or Roan, but they are trying to prevent from going into that, and that you've heard some of the school closings and some of those certain items. So that's the difference. And what's the percentage of the fund balance to our approved budget? So back to Pendleton County, the last column, 11.95%, 12%. The state likes to see that, at least 10 to 15%. Statewide, though, is 25.9%. A lot of that, some of that is excess levies, leftover money from the federal funds, and some of that is the natural gas funds that are in there. So this again is as of 6/30/24. Those numbers would change a little bit for 6/30/25, but not appreciably, but did take a step back a little bit. So this information is out, being discussed. I think even some state board members are probably seeing it for the first time, which led to some of the comments, even though it's been around for quite a while. The second page of this handout gets into excess levy, yes or no, number of schools. Then they look at, your utilization. So they look at the square footage that you have available. and how many students could you hold based upon their statistics versus how many do you have. So if we just go down to Pendleton again, so no for excess levy, 4 for a number of schools. On page down here to make it a little bit larger. So 4 for a number of schools, 50.32%. Now you can see some other counties around us there, they're in the 40s and 50s, and very few are actually into the 60s. So it's not like Mon County, Upshur, some of them, very few. So we're a little bit below average, not terribly below average, but based upon this, we could hold twice as many students as we have now if we were filled at capacity. Now that might be a bit much. We might think that's a bit too full, but that's just what their numbers show. And we do, 30 years ago had almost 1,500. Now we're not quite half, but we're down to 840 or so. Now we had 6 schools before consolidation and went down to 4 schools that we have now. So we've never had, that 1,500 into one of the configurations that we have now. But based upon WVDE's metrics, 50% utilization. You can see Clay County is at 48% going up. Calhoun County is at 29.55%. They maybe have some large older buildings that they're just not utilizing, so that's pretty low. Braxton at 32%. Square footage based upon Logan County, 39%. State average, scrolling down, doesn't really give a state average. I think it's in the mid-50s, there for some of those counties. But Webster at 33%. We're at 41. And, so for us at 50, it is not terribly much below the state average. But if you're looking at, they don't even have their schools filled. So you can see things starting to add up. People look at numbers, and so that's so geography, I contend, is still a large factor. Mountains are a large factor, and all those kind of things, which is how we've developed the 1,400 floor. So then it goes into number of professional in excess, which we were below. We're underemploying 9.82, which is how we maintain and employ our people for our schools. And then service personnel, we were underemployed as well by the 4.97. If you have a parentheses around it, that means you're overemploying what the state provides. So most school districts across the state do employ more than what the state provides. And obviously that's just a fact. Without 1,400 flooring, we would employ more than provided, and we still couldn't have enough, or we'd be bankrupt trying to keep up with everything for that. So that's just some basic information. It's not really to go into tremendous in-depth, but those numbers stand out, which will show up here in a minute as we go a little bit further into this discussion. That's just information there as well. So let's just go ahead and get into the 1,400 floor. So there was a Metro News article about the 1,400 floor. $25 million, should the state continue to put this much money into these schools where they don't have all these students? It's a question mark. And so then I did send Senator Morris from Randolph County an email, and I did, send him all the reasons why I think it's important to keep it. And as I did say as my follow-up, we understand the argument for additional funding, and some want to move to a system where you give extra money for special ed students, poverty, and English proficiency or English language learners, which I understand that. If I'm in one of those counties, I might like some extra money there as well for that. But if you're looking to find money for that, we're obviously saying don't take it away from those of us that have worked to get the 1,400 floor in place and feel like it's doing a good job. We're not asking to take away money. We didn't ask to take away money when 1,400 floor was put in, and so we don't really want to be at the risk of losing funds now based on any of that. And so I scroll down below here. This was from news media reports in the last few days. This is Hardesty, the state board president, at the state board meeting, which was like, you can't keep giving counties like Pendleton and Pocahontas and others 400 to 500 extra students for pay, while the ones that are between 1,400 and 2,000, that's where the sweet spot. He's saying Roane County has 1,500 and some, they're getting no help. Well, we were hurting long before, this past 20 years, and we took some steps to get it fixed. So obviously, we have no qualms with changing the formula to help a county like Roan. I think adding some extra staffing based upon sparsity levels would help, and Roan County would qualify for that. But I think, for President Hardesty, this was his first time in the past week or two realizing that the state gave this money out. It was kind of down into the weeds he never got into. I think him seeing numbers like that, Metro News talking about it, was like, well, why are we giving funding for students that don't exist? Well, we look at it as base funding because of geography and lack of students and too spread out and long bus rides being maintained. So we worked to maintain these rural areas 20 or 25 years ago, just like the Randolph now is trying to find a way to keep some of their schools open. Roan County is trying to find a way. So they're getting the spotlight, especially Roan, and they're having some sympathetic voices, which we understand that. So anyhow, we've kind of ended up in the limelight, between the 1,400 and 2,000. So that's the basic information. So I'm going to skip that part for a minute. I'm going to go back to this rand. So coincidental, at the same time as all this was happening, the House last Wednesday had asked for a study about the school funding formula. It was presented on Wednesday or maybe Friday. It was presented all about the same time as the state board meeting and everything else was going on. So the bottom line was this RAND group had 3 scenarios for funding, giving extra money for low-income students in poverty, where we rank very low, special ed students, where we rank very low, English language learners, where again we rank very low. Our achievement's good, but so then scenario number 1, McDowell County would get 110% of what they're getting now, as I scroll down. What would Pendleton get scenario number 1? Pendleton would get 93.5%. So if we're getting roughly $12 million a year in state and local money, 7%, not quite $1 million, close to $1 million less. Now this is a long way from being brought to fruition. So this is all kind of coincidental to the 1,400 floor, but it's all happening at the same time. And then let's go to scenario number 2, which would tweak the numbers a little bit more. They would tweak them, but still based upon low-income students, special ed students, English language learners. You come down to Pendleton County getting 89.6% of what we get now. So that would probably be 1.2 or 1.3 million less per year based on that. And again, Pendleton compared to the rest of West Virginia ranks low in poverty measures, ranks not the lowest, but ranks low in special education, probably the bottom 5 or 6, doesn't have English language learners. So we understand there are counties that need assistance in those areas, but we think it's understated the need for sparsity allocations, which the 1,400 floor has done so well. Table number 3 gets McDowell up to 113.5. So it's basically a combination of 1 and 2, and then adding some state money on top of that, 5% across the board. So number 3 only would cut us down about 3%, 96.9% would cut us down. You can see the Mon counties, the Tucker counties, they don't have large incidences of special ed or low poverty either. There's 8 or 10 counties in all these scenarios show losing money. This one would hurt us 3%. That would be 300,000 to 400,000. Well, that wouldn't be great. It's certainly better than $1 million or 1.2 million. And these are just things that were thrown out. Separate from this, the school administrators group is advocating for additional funding for staffing. So we have all kinds of competing information down there in Charleston. So certainly we have to maintain vigilance. That kind of gets back to, I'll go to my Senator Morris response from Randolph County. He says, I just want to let you know that Senator Hamilton and I have been made aware of Board President Hardesty's comments at the school board meeting yesterday. I assure you we will fight with everything we have to keep the 1,400 rule in place. Only changes that would help Pendleton County, not hurt it, would be supported by us. And so they'll certainly have other issues to be working with down there, but at least we have brought it to our attention, and Senator Hamilton and Senator Morris, I believe, very much want to make sure that we are not harmed in the 1400 floor. But again, we've never been in the limelight as much as we are right now with the state board president's comments and others. And some counties have been envious of this for years, even some of our neighbors. So I don't think they're going to feel too sorry for us. But at the same time, we just have to maintain the reasoning, the rationale for what we're doing. It's good that our academics are good. There's always room for improvement when it comes to that. But obviously, we've made some over the last 5 or 10 years, and we can still, bounces around from time to time. So that's just basic information. I don't think there's anything else that needs to go in there. There's other information. That's kind of the gist of that. With the Hancock County, so in the same time as all of this, you have Hancock County, which doesn't really matter to us in terms of, doesn't have any good or bad impact on us, except, you get people thinking, well, can school systems really handle their money? Hancock County can't even make payroll, which is astonishing to me and those of us in the business for a long time, to get that bad that they've run out of cash to make payroll. And then there's this special legislation trying to be passed, and they had a full levy and everything. And that's just a long story. They didn't pay attention like they should have paid attention in Hancock County, and they're paying the price. But you get this kind of information happening at the same time as people seeing small counties getting millions of dollars. And it's like, gosh, well, do school systems know how to manage their schools or not? And obviously we would say, well, it takes more in a small rural area. We've said that for 30 years. Some people may disagree how much. And you have school systems like Hancock. But going back to one of the first attachments, you have school systems with healthy fund balances across the state. It is not across the board. Most of them take care of their money and are not in dire straits financially. And Pendleton County, is one of those. So, Nicole, I kind of went through several there, but kind of trimmed it down. Anything you want to add on this financial update?
Well, we did have a phone call with the state superintendent on Friday. She had other people with her, Uriah Cummings and Drew McClanahan and Jeff Kelly. And they were supportive, but also, their focus has to be the state concerns as well. So we were thankful that we had that opportunity to speak with them. We have asked if there's anything that we need to do as far as sending information or attending meetings or anything, that we would be glad to do that. So we're looking for those opportunities. We're also thankful too that Charles is continuing to be a part of the WBASA, and he sends us the legislative updates daily and sends, I think it was a 5:15 this morning, JP, the first report that we got from Charles.
Probably. I think it was about 5:15, yes.
He keeps us up to date with everything in the news, so that's very helpful as well. So.
Well, thank you for doing that, Nicole. Charles also. Anybody have any questions for JP? Is that all you have, JP?
It is. Kind of want to give you a synopsis of where we were there. So there's a long ways to go. The session just started last week, 60 days until the middle of March.
It seems so odd that Randolph at the end of 24 having $5 million
Well,
to get in the problem they're in.
well, I know. And, they were actually projecting a deficit at the end of 25, which didn't materialize, which caused them a little heartburn because they ended up with about $2 million. So they kind of, had to backtrack. And I think that's one of the reasons that perhaps Pickens ended up staying. I don't know for sure, but regardless, they are working very hard in Randolph. And I think the fact that they went from 5 to just over 2, well, if they had another year like that, they'd be in a deficit. So that shows the problem. And again, you don't want to be in a situation where you're going down $3 million in 1 year, but you also have to be willing to, stay on top and make cuts, and not everybody wants to do that. And the COVID money blurred things for a while, and some of us were pounding that fact all the way through, and others maybe a little bit less so. But, we've had a lot of consistency over here in leadership. And some counties have had people come and go, and that's kind of hard without consistent persons on that sort of thing. And so But yes, you're looking at that from 24, you'd say, well, Randolph County's fine. Well, now you hear about closing schools and that. So, it's a lot, it's a big swing from one year and then another year and then another year. But in Hancock, they also had probably, more funds, I think, in 23 than 24. And they're now facing perhaps a 6 to 7 million deficit at the end of 26, and which again is hard to fathom. Combination of factors, and they were not heeding the warning signs. Who all was not heeding it? I don't know. Obviously, you got to be leading the charge in the finance area, and at the same time, when the state board did the takeover on Friday, the superintendent's job was right there in public meeting. Your job's vacant as of 4 p.m. today, and the assistant's job is vacant as of 4 p.m. today. So the state is now in charge of Hancock County. So anyhow, information for us to keep in mind as we go through this legislative session.
I look at some of those carryovers, I can see years that we would jump for joy for
Oh,
any
absolutely.
kind of carryover like that.
Absolutely. When you're talking about 100,000, and so it is night and day.
And that shows you how the central office and everybody did with that COVID money. I can remember talking about many times, don't overspend it,
Right.
keep it.
And we did some things. We still did some things. We made some moves and did some capital improvements and hired some people. But you also have to be able to keep enough back on that. And the 1,400 floor and the COVID money has been instrumental, no doubt, in being able to maintain that. And we have been insulated from drops in enrollment because of the 1,400 floor. And we don't take that for granted. We are very thankful for that. Now we're seeing a bit of an effect because of the Pocahontas County tie-in. And so, we know other counties have issues. We really do. And I don't know exactly what the legislature is going to do with that, but they're also looking at cutting revenue with, additional tax cuts, which as a citizen is great. As someone trying to operate an institution on tax revenues, it gives you some concern on that.
I just hope we're not penalized for all the hard work you guys have done.
Well, and I don't think I don't think they look at it as a penalty, but as much as we have done, yes, it would be a step back when we'd have to really sit down and figure out what we're going to do in that particular scenario.
Thank you.
Yep.
Down to facilities, update Travis.
Yeah, the only thing I have really is the RTU 9, Franklin Elementary is still down. It's been down for about a week and a half. We've called Mason and Barry. I finally did get a hold of Matt Duncan, who's one of the higher ups there, and we've got the ball rolling a little bit. They're supposed to be here on Thursday, but it seems like it might be the same issue we ran into back in the fall when we were needing it for air conditioning. There's a piece of equipment on there called like an easy or a soft start that gets the unit up and going, and for some reason we keep blowing fuses to that piece of equipment. So hopefully they'll get in here Thursday and be able to take a look at it. In the meantime, we've been trying to heat those rooms the best we can and keep them warm for the students and the teachers. But that's probably the biggest pressing need right now is to try and get that back up and running. So.
Any questions for Travis? Thank you, Travis. Advanced construction planning.
I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session as per West Virginia Code 6-9A-4, item 9.
We have
To
a motion
discuss
to go to executive session. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, aye. We're now on executive session.
Are we going to the conference?
Yeah, can we take?
Do you want to hang up JD and I'll call him when we get?
Okay. We're going to hang you up, JD. All right.
6:07, Lisa. I'll entertain a motion to get back to regular session.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Motion and a second to come back to regular session with no action taken in executive session. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed likewise? Motion carried. Old business, I see none. Down to new business, approval of the Franklin Elementary School project.
All right, let me pull this up on the agenda here. So 9A, and then there's a 9B, which is the lease finance purchase. So Travis has talked about this multiple times. He can probably talk about it in more particulars than what I can, but this is the quote from MCOR, which has what we believe very strongly in consultation with the Department of Ed, with the SBA, what's needed to work with some of the issues at Franklin Elementary, including the doors not staying closed, the pressurization, some other issues with HVAC. So it's in two parts. It is on a master contract cooperative purchasing. So we have that part taken care of. So there's a first part that totals $195,027. That gets into various items of engineering, work to be done on rooftop units, remove ductwork, furnish ductwork, facilitate wiring, new graphics, new controllers, and so on. That's $195,027. The second item is also for Franklin Elementary. It works on the RTU, rooftop unit number 2 in the cafeteria, does some other basic information for both of those together are at Franklin Elementary. So again, that particular piece of the project is $58,950. So you have $195,027, $58,950 for a total of $253,977. There's a resolution, which is the next item on the agenda, to pay for this lease purchase over a 5-year period. Equipment and related items can be lease purchased, paid for over time, as opposed to simply writing a check for the $253,977. So the financing is ready to go on that if the board approves it, but this is to get us started, to get a purchase order issued. Anything, Travis, you want to add on the project?
No, I think you pretty much summed it up with the explanation.
So that's the information, unless Nicole has anything else she wants to say on that.
Yep, you have my recommendation to approve the Franklin Elementary project as presented.
Superintendent's recommendation to approve the Franklin Elementary project. We have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Well, I did have a question. They have to redo the ductwork?
So what they'll do, they're gonna cut into some of the existing ductwork, and they're gonna put a relief up through the ceiling to the upstairs,
Okay,
well, actually outside. And there'll be exhaust fans put in those with dampers and things like that, so they can control some of the pressure. Where we run into issues, it's like, I don't know, it's probably 50 degrees out, and it's trying to pull so much outside air, and it creates almost like a back pressure across those doors open. And so with these units, we'll be able to control that a lot better, and it'll be running off controls too, and hopefully eliminate some of that. But there'll be, I think there's at least a couple of reliefs all the way through the ceiling that they talk about there. There's one that will be out into the cafeteria area, and then it talks about RTU 6, 9, and 10 in the rest of the building that will also have some work done to them. So yeah, they'll tie into some of the existing ductwork, plus they'll add some of their own and add in those controls and fans and dampers and all that other good stuff.
okay.
How long is this going to take to do?
They told me about a week. So they had everything on site and was ready. They thought they could complete the work in about a week's time.
And possibly even during spring break, right, if we
Yeah.
have one.
And that was what we had talked about earlier, and that was back in the fall further when we were kind of planning out that they thought maybe over a spring break or something like that, they could get the work done. So, that building's so unique because it's got that cross-laminated timber, that might cause us a little bit more of an issue. But they had talked to some of the people that had built that building and felt like they had a pretty good idea where they needed to make their roof penetrations and stuff like that to take care of it. And you know, as we've talked about many times before, we've got some other issues with the controls down there too. So this will kind of give us the opportunity to put in the new controls that's needed to run this and tie in our existing things that we've been having some issues with that building already. And then hopefully we can come back in and tie in some of the other things we have to do, so.
But under exclusions, it says lighting and controls.
Correct, yeah. Some of that we're gonna end up having to probably pay extra to get some of that extra stuff done that needs to be corrected. But this will give us kind of the main frame that we can tie into. And we're gonna have to do a little bit of work to try to figure out, and some of it may not be that, we may be just kind of chasing down some wires and figure out what's been unplugged at some point somewhere in the building and stuff like that. But I think long term, this gives us the front end where we can tie into some of the stuff that's already there.
See the updates we need, like for the future. I mean, is this?
Well, we've worked with the department, West Virginia Department, and talked to those guys too. And you know, we've tried to attack this a couple different times, and no one's kind of really come up with a solution or an idea of what we needed to do. But working with the guys down there, you know, kind of taking some of their advice, this is kind of where they try to direct us to go towards. And of course, we tried a MIP grant last spring, doing the same project. And of course, we didn't get funded for that. So we tried to reach out and get as much info as we could. Hopefully get this the right way we need to go.
Any more questions or anything? We had a motion.
I don't know if I answered your question.
You did, thank you.
I'm not an HVAC person, so.
I'm not either. I just didn't know if we were gonna have to pay for all new ductwork
No.
or,
They'll
Okay.
tie into existing, and they've kind of got it calculated what they need to add into it to make it work.
okay.
All right, we had a motion and a second. All in favor, aye.
Uh,
Opposed likewise, motion carried. Now the approval of the project lease purchase.
Yeah, so the next accompanying item is 9B, which is the same process we've used for the buses, several buses, including one at a recent meeting, the lockers that were purchased at the middle school. Of course, we went over some of those payables at the last meeting. This is an item out here that is on the screen, has the 7-year that I am realizing, but it actually is a 5-year lease. It's actually a 5-year lease to be paid off. But so that's the proposal is for a 5-year lease to pay off the $253,977. $253,977 over 5 years. That's what that's. So this one right here. It's the 5 years. 496673 per month, and that's what that is to be paid off for 5 years, which again will be roughly $60,000 a year, but that will affect our budget, you know, $60,000 a year as opposed to $250,000 at one time. So it's a way of spreading out the payments as opposed to writing a check for it all at one time on that. So that's our recommendation for this project.
You have my recommendation to approve the lease purchase resolution for the Franklin Elementary project
For the 5 years.
for the 5
Yes.
years.
Okay.
Yep.
Have superintendent's recommendations. I have a motion.
so moved.
Second.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, aye. Opposed? Motion carried. All right, we're down to 5th month attendance report. Now, Christie, you're going to do that,
I have an
correct?
update from Carrie. So before diving into the numbers for the 5th month report, this is a disclaimer that it's important to know that the 5th month of school ran from December 5th to January 12th, which incorporated several snow days and summer saver days. These days likely make our attendance numbers better than what they would have been if we had physically been present in school. The 5th month overall looks excellent, with a few bumps at Brandywine Elementary School 5th grade, 11th grade, and the 12th grade. The highest individual class in the county was North Fork's third grade with an incredible 99.01% attendance. The highest school was Franklin Elementary with an average daily attendance rate of 97%, and the highest county grade level was first grade at 96.68%. Looking down the county average column, there are more grade levels at 95% and 96% than I've ever seen. The county overall ended at 95.14% for the 5th month. A second disclaimer is that the presentation on the 6th month will likely look much different. All schools have been dealing with the flu, COVID, and numerous other viruses. So attendance for about 2 weeks has been very low countywide, with some daily rates falling to 84% and 79%. Our county rate has been below 93% since January 7th. The Day 90 average daily attendance report. Day 90 report shows all 3 elementary schools above 95% and the middle high school at 94%. When looking across the past few years, you can see that we are generally making steady progress at each school. The Day 90 chronic absent report shows that each school has improved in their chronic absent rates since this time last year. Again, on this one, you can compare the chronic absent rate across the past few years. Brandywine had a chronic absent rate of 14% on Day 90 in 2023, and it's now at 11.1%. Franklin was at 13% and is now at 8.1%. In 2023, North Fork was at 22.2% and is now at 8.3%. The middle high school was 25.9% and they're now at 15.5%. And the county as a whole was at 20.2% and we're now at 11.9%. I appreciate all of the work that the schools have put in to incentivize attendance and encourage students to come to school. And I also appreciate how much our parents and students have made attendance a priority so that kids are in school and able to learn. I am currently at an attendance conference with a team from Brandywine Elementary, and we're anxious to get back to start working on ways to continue to talk about why attendance is important.
Great numbers.
Yeah, very good.
Just for information.
Yep, it's just information. Okay.
All right, we're at
School improvement, student achievement. Brandywine Elementary has shared with us their accelerated reader, the top 10 for the first semester. They include in the numbers on here, you can see the numbers and what they range from 245.7 points to 91.6, and that includes Harley Bowers, Silas Lamotte, Harper Marsh, Bethany Teagarden, Macy Mitchell, Hunter Bowers, Vincent Rawson, Bianca Henderson, Bryce Kimball, and Colton Price. And also, Brandywine has shared with us November perfect attendance was Kenlon McQuain and Fletcher Puffenberger. December perfect attendance, Hollis Puffenberger and Geneva Mongold. Are those, do you know if they're, does anyone know, do they do drawings on those, or are those the, I think they do drawings and they're the ones who won. PBIS first semester, these students won a PCB, $50 deposit, and that's Adeline Hensley and Wyatt Hebner. PBIS first semester Target $50 gift card, Haley Howdyshow and Jack Roberts. Faithful attendance for the first semester, these students won a JBL wireless headphone, and that's Wyatt Ruddle and Macy Mitchell. Perfect attendance first semester, these students won an Amazon Fire tablet, Maverick Fox and Benjamin Weaver. And the social studies and science fair county winners included Misty Wood with honorable mention and Harley Bowers with first place.
Thanks, Mr. Lambert, for getting that. Mr. Lambert, know we appreciate that
Do
information.
that.
Okay, superintendent's update.
Okay, so we had our leadership data meeting on January 13th. And it was a very productive time. We had not met in December due to the weather, so it was great to get together. It was very productive. It was a great time for each group to be able to summarize their student achievement, so that was very productive, and we enjoyed that time together. So,
Thank you.
Conference meeting update.
Yes, so I'm off tomorrow, and I did send an email in regard to that. On Thursday, there's an EPIC meeting that Sunny and I will be attending. And we do have a meeting tomorrow that I will log in with my phone with the SBA to review possible MIP grants, getting their input on which way we should go. And then, of course, Saturday, we have our board meeting to review finance, weather permitting.
All right, the next regular meeting of the Pendleton County Board of Education will be held Tuesday, February the 3rd, the regular meeting at the Pendleton County Middle High School, beginning at 5:30. No, at 5:30 with the RSIC. All right, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.